And of course, Bill Clinton put his foot in his mouth, right, by confronting Black Lives Matter protester, a young woman that confronted Bill Clinton over the crime bill or crime law that Bernie Sanders also voted for. Bernie Sanders is saying that he voted for it because um, that it had protections, extra protection and funding for that for women's issues, and I believe that, and I believe that he also voted for it because there were members in a city, members of the African American community, leaders, the so-called establishment, that asked for this, right? Um, but Bill Clinton showed himself from his old Southern self, right? And that old man yelling on the lawn kind of thing, uh, using the word hopped up on drugs, and um, and accusing the young lady that she was uh, uh, by her protest, she was protecting the people that supposedly were hopped, as the president said, quote unquote, hopped up on crack, cocaine. Um, so there's a million things to say about that interaction, and a lot of people have certainly said a lot of things about that interaction. What bothers me most is how angry he actually gets. I was watching the incident, and have the opportunity to pause the video feed, and my goodness, there is some real anger, in Bill Clinton's eyes, some rage there. I don't know. I mean, I'm just thinking that he's not used to being questioned, and he, certainly have not been for a very long time. Um, I don't know. Still baffling to me that uh, the media lets the Clinton family, I mean, not the Clinton family, but Bill Clinton, well, the Clinton family, Chelsea Clinton as well, when she was claiming that Bernie Sanders were um, his plan would take away health care for children and I mean, all the different things, the ageism that they throw against Sanders, the fact that he's out of touch, that he hasn't been a part of the civil rights movement, and we can rehash this every freaking time, but the fact of the matter is that this is what they do. I learned today something absolutely new that I didn't know, and that makes today a great day. Uh, the tactic that the Clintons are using is called gaslighting. And uh, so, gaslighting is, according to Wikipedia's definition, gaslighting is a form of mental abuse wherein information is twisted or spun, selectively omitted to favor the abuser, or false information is presented by an abusive person in order to manipulate the accuser into questioning reality. That's Now I get it. I had a I didn't understand how for example Hillary Clinton gets away with with short of actually speaking the words, because she doesn't have the courage that Mr. Sanders does. uh, Says that, starts out by saying that Bernie Sanders is not qualified to be president, and unfortunately, Bernie Sanders bites on that one, and he and he then says that neither is Hillary Clinton. Um, I personally think that it was a mistake. I think that they should have directly gone to, as they now have, to say that you know it doesn't take much to be qualified uh, to be able to run for president. So, in the strictest sense of qualification, you know, they're both qualified. I think if you're watching this podcast and you're over 45 or whatever it is, 35, 45, 35, 45, 35, you can run for president, right? So both of them are immensely qualified. But what Sanders should have done is say, we're both qualified, and you know, whatever, whatever. But um, judgment is really what matters, right? Instead of saying whatever, whatever, he should have said we're both qualified. Uh, what matters after the voters have decided our qualifications is whether or not they believe that who Secretary Clinton or I, Sanders, should have said, who has the better judgment, right? And didn't do that. Um, that would have led him into having a conversation uh, about the Iraq War. It would lead him into having a conversation uh, back on his turf, which is to remind voters that Hillary Clinton has on every single issue when it comes to war has made some tremendously uh, bad judgment calls, right? Including, as we always return to, the Iraq War. But there's also Syria. There's also Libya. Libya, which the president, in an interview on Fox News, I think it was, admitted was his biggest mistake. He makes it in to say that the actual action of going in there was not the mistake, but that they hadn't planned for the day after. And I am certainly way beyond my pay grade to comment on whether or not uh, that is correct. I just want to note that if he said um, that it was really also a dumb idea to go in and oust him, Gaddafi, like that. We, after we would all get, oh, the president admitted, after we would get over the fact that the president admitted a mistake and talked intelligently about it. God, I will miss this man. Um, that one of the people pushing the hardest in his administration for the Libya solution as it was executed was Hillary Clinton. So that not the best way to go. Just not the smartest. So he couldn't do that, right? He simply just could not do that. Um, what is also worth noting is that Hillary Clinton. Remember the big brouhaha, the interview that Bernie Sanders supposedly failed. Um, uh, Hillary Clinton had the same interview with the Daily News, and the interview that Bernie Sanders had, where they said he failed, and the Clinton campaign was pushing that today. Also, that Bernie Sanders failed the question on how he would break up the bank, which is bullshit again, but that's what they did. Well, Hillary Clinton had that interview with the same newspaper. Now remember, this is a pro-Israel, pro-Hillary Clinton newspaper, so obviously not the hardest interview for her to do. And also, let's be clear, right? As much you can say whatever you want, and some people say they certainly take full advantage of that. But Hillary Clinton is no dummy. She's she's well versed on any subject. She's super wonkish. I'm sure. I mean, and smart and whatever. Her problem is her judgment, right? But all the other pieces are there, right? So let's not try to paint her or pretend that she's an idiot or a neophyte. She's not. She's a very very capable woman. Uh, you know, just happen to disagree with her on policy, and I happen to think that she does not have the judgment and the temperament to to be president. I don't think that she uh, would be able to uh, do what Obama did, which was step away from another war in Syria, and and in return uh, get most, if not all, of the chemical weapons out of there. I don't think that she would be able to do that. I don't think that she would want to do that. One of the reasons is because she has Henry Kissinger as a hero of hers, and that would certainly not be something that he would condone. Right? Remember, Henry Kissinger is the not inventor, but the he came up with a domino effect, right? And he was if one South American government fell to the communists, then all of them eventually would fall. Either Southeast Asia or whether or not it was in our own hemisphere in South America and Central America, and that of course led to a mass. It led to war crimes. It led us to overthrow governments in Central America. A ton of the misery that has been going on down there has, been caused by us. And and she basically uh, she basically is in that interview. Uh, she shows off her skills, and then as as understanding the subject, her depth of knowledge, clearly, and I will probably go more into depth about this maybe on Wednesday, depending on what happens in the news cycle in between, maybe tomorrow. Um, but you know, as soon as it comes to 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 foreign policy, as soon as it comes to anything with war, she takes such a right turn that it must, if you are an issue Democrat and not a personality Democrat, right? Then it must give you whiplash when Hillary Clinton does that, right? I mean, there's no surprises there. She outlines her position again, uh, as she did in APAC, and and this unexamined support for Israel that certainly does not benefit us. And then she seems to indicate that she wants to create another plan for Central America that seems akin to the one that was created by her hero. So I'm not sure that's the way to go. And you know, the one thing that I really stood out to me in that interview when it comes to Israel was in her dispute, said, "Hey, look, my Hillary Clinton, I have certainly spoken truth to Netanyahu, blah blah blah." But then she says, "But I think any dispute or disagreement should be handled in a respectful and preferable private way, so we don't give any aid and comfort to Israel's adversaries or drive any wedge between us." I, I don't get that. I I don't understand how that is a foreign policy agenda that's supposed to lead to a peaceful, uh, homogenous uh, Middle East. I have no idea how that's going to happen with Hillary Clinton as president, and certainly not the way that she talks about it. The other thing that I think was illuminating was that the Daily News wants to clarify her economic philosophy, her position, how, what what's her economic philosophy, right? And the Daily News. But going back to something more basic, I think your theory is, and then they put it into their words, but promote growth, increase growth, will increase employment, will increase the upwards pressure on raises and on salaries, right? Right. She agrees with that. That is in its basic form supply side economics. Basically, somehow the jobs magically appear. I forgot I'm using this camera today, so I think I've been staring at this one all day. But somehow that the jobs will, I have been, will somehow appear without a market. And, that just, we, I mean, there's books written about this shit, right? I think I even have a couple of them over here. It doesn't work that way. It never has worked that way. But, so she's certainly, in that interview, I think that she, without a doubt, confirms that she is a supply side economic believer, which would put her squarely on the Republican side. Just to be clear. So again, how in the world do you vote for Hillary Clinton? Unless you're a Republican. I mean, This is getting it is surreal. This election is surreal. Only because we have Bernie Sanders, right? Because Bernie Sanders goes out there and what he's speaking is real core democratic values, or at least the ones that I grew up with, right? And I'm not that fucking old. So when there's somebody on the field um, espousing or preaching real democratic values about an economy that you know that grows from the bottom up, and obviously there are people that will be more successful than others, but nobody will live a substandard. And when we are talking substandard, we're talking an American standard, right? We're not applying Zimbabwe standards to America. I just pulled that out of my ass. Okay, we could also take some Europeans, Eastern European, or Albania, right? We're not applying Albanian standards and comparing it to that, right? So. I don't know, but certainly she came out in that interview full fledged, uh, full fledged supply side, trickle down economic philosophy is what Hillary Clinton ascribes to. There's a million other things that I really wanted to talk about, and I think we might be doing that tomorrow. Some interesting things. As you all know, Melissa Harris Perry is no longer with MSNBC, and she's done one interview, I think, since. And as always, it's informative. She's smart. She's brilliant. I love her. And I think today I figured out why she was fired, or let go, or taken off her show. However, she would characterize it as she was pushed out. Right? She wasn't fired, and that's because I don't think she would let her co-hosts on MSNBC get away with promoting this false narrative of how good the Clintons have been to the African American community. And the reason she probably wouldn't have let her cohorts at MSNBC do that is because she would stay true to an article she wrote for Slate back in 2008 under the headline that the Clinton fallacy, did blacks really make big economic gains during the 90s? Uh, and in this article, she basically she points out that in 2005, uh, for an article that she co-authored in the Journal of Black Studies, she did an analysis of five national surveys from 1984 through 2000, and and one of the things that I found was astonishing was uh, that by the time that uh, the Clintons left office, uh, they believed that African Americans were doing better economically than white Americans, right? So in the 80s, 5% I'm sorry, I was just wondering where did that 5% fucking get that from? There's always weirdos, right? Fucking, there's always just weird people in any group, right? I mean, fucking whites have people voting for Trump and Hillary, right? I mean, yeah, that's voting against your own economic self-interest. Unless you're making 75 plus $1,000 and you're voting for either one of those, you're voting against your own economic interests, right? So let's that be clear. But so 5% in the 80s believed that African Americans were doing better economically, financially than whites. By the year 2000, 30% responded that they believed that African Americans were doing better financially than whites. Now it's funny enough, right? I wrote a little note to myself, something akin. I don't have it here, but something akin to Bill Clinton doesn't have the kind of friends that Ronald Reagan did. Because nobody is going to spend billions of dollars rehabilitating or creating a different narrative than the actual narrative of your presidency. Bill Clinton's presidency will truly be left up for us to judge, which is that's what we're doing right now too, right? Has to be hard, to have his presidency litigated in front of him. I don't know, but I don't know. Again, this article that and you really should read it. But again, it's called the Clinton fallacy. Did blacks really make a big economic gain during the '90s? And black Americans' love for Bill Clinton is built on a fallacy, is what she points out. And uh, this article is from 2008, and it um, it certainly explains, right? If 30% believes no matter what that they're doing better, then they will vote for a Hillary Clinton. They will believe, what's being sold by Hillary Clinton. Um, so that was some interesting numbers to me. Anyway, oh man, what else have we got on the agenda today? There was the brouhaha over the Vatican's invitation of Donald Trump. Donald Trump, what the jeez, damn! It is really time to call it an evening, right? Uh, of Bernie Sanders to the Vatican. Jesus Christ. Oh no, they would not invite the devil himself. Um, Again, Bernie Sanders was invited to the Vatican. The Twitterverse, the Hillary Clinton supporters, and Joanne Walsh decided to push this narrative that Bernie Sanders had self-invited. I mean, I was not paying attention to that. First of all, I don't fucking care. It means absolutely nothing to me that he was invited, to the Vatican, right? Um, Maybe I should pay attention to that. Maybe that should matter to me, but it just didn't. Not even a little bit. So I didn't follow up on it, but then it consistently went on, and it took a simple Google test, right? Or a Google test, a simple Google search to get a press release from a cardinal, uh, Monsignor Marcelo Sanchez Soronado, uh, that told Reuters that first of all the bishop or the American member, by the way, a member of the Catholic Church or whatever, that had started spinning that thing knew that what she was saying was bullshit because, and then the Monsignor provided a press release with both their signatures on it, right? And so that one would fucking think that okay, we know on the Tea Party side, you can present evidence, irrefutable evidence, or any kind of good evidence uh, to some people, and it's just let's not kill or let's not point such a broad brush, but we'll brush. But we've certainly met people online and in real life, right, where you can have very solid evidence for your position, and they don't fucking care. It doesn't really bother them, or doesn't make them change their mind, right? So I find this Reuters press release, and I forward it to Joanne Walsh of The Nation, and well, I mean, at least she thanks me, right? And then she says, "But I think there will turn out to be more to it." Well, what the fuck is there to it? He was invited, and he's going. I don't know why he's going 2 freaking days right before they vote in New York. I don't know if he's thinking that he can do inroads with elderly pro Clinton voters that are Catholics. Hey, listen. He's running his campaign. That I'm not certainly not. Again, another thing that I'm talking about that's not within my pay grade to talk about or to oh whatever. I'm not sure if that's the brightest idea, but he's going, so that's what he's doing. Um, what else can we talk about? It will come up again, right? But you have to, and I will talk more about it. But you have to go over and read Matt Taibbi and Rolling Stone because I mean Paul Krugman has left the building, right? We can all agree on that, right? Paul Krugman has left the building. I don't. I don't. I mean, I'm, I don't do that kind of research on that deep research on people. I read stuff, and when I agree with it, I agree with it. If I don't agree with it, I don't agree with it. Paul Krugman, I've agreed with a lot, and I will probably do again. But it is sad to see that he seems to have be willing to spend whatever credibility he believes that he had built up with his audience over the time. I think that he has decided that he is willing to spend all of that in on getting Hillary Clinton elected president of the United States, and it is sad to see. And I don't. I maybe it's that important for him to get that economist uh, that place in the cabinet if that's what he's working for. But I mean, he's got a pretty damn good gig, right? He fucking writes for the New York Times. I'm sure he's on the lecture market. I'm sure he's making 6 figures there. I'm sure he's making more than probably 7 figures, right? And I'm sure he's making 6 figures being a professor. So I just I don't get it, but he certainly has been going after Bernie Sanders, and he has been uh, 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 misrepresenting Bernie Sanders, and went way over the line. But it was. I can't say he went way over the line, but certainly he told untruth about Bernie Sanders' campaign and his programs and but he didn't in his attacks on Bernie Sanders he did not um, that's probably annoying that cracking he did not he didn't say shit that was provably wrong. He didn't just ruin his credibility. But then he came out with an article, I think, or his opinion piece. Was it Sunday opinion or was it Friday opinion? Right, where he basically came out and said, "Oh no, it wasn't the banks that were too big to fail," and that this is all following up on Sanders' supposedly really bad interview. And then Krugman, writes an article where he basically tries to you know to say that it wasn't the banks that did it, that it was small little financial institutions like Countrywide that did it, and that caused the collapse, right? And that whole article is so sad to read, right? Because especially when you remember the laundering of drug monies, the fixing of the interest rates, the manipulation of the forex market, and settlements that have already been made and are still to come from Goldman Sachs to Barclay, right? So it is just unbelievable to see a man, Nobel laureate, and do that kind of stuff. And it's kind of, to sell himself out like that, and it's kind of sad to see. Um, Hopefully, he will find his way back after the election, but certainly can't. The only reason to read him now is just to to know what talking points are coming out from the other side, and what he's trying to do, what he's trying to, how he's trying to arm his or her troops with false and really shitty information, and that's just too bad. I had expected more from him. I think I am going to call that an evening. It became much longer than what I thought it would have been, and I guess I should have probably done it live anyway. But either way, thank you for watching. I am going to do a live show tomorrow. I am pretty sure it is the Democratic debate, so I will be doing a live show tomorrow, live, talking and or watching it with you. So I hope you will watch it with me. Take care. Uh, Take care of yourself. Take care of each other, and be safe.